The final topic of import that Herman Hulst touched on in his interview on the official PlayStation blog pertains to Sony's future plans for releases on PC. When asked about PlayStation's future support of PC, Hulst had the following to say in part, quote, We're still early on in our planning for PC. Horizon Zero Dawn has been very successful. I think it shows there's an appetite from gamers outside the PlayStation ecosystem to experience the amazing portfolio of games that PlayStation fans have enjoyed for years. But I want to emphasize that PlayStation will remain the best place to play our PlayStation Studios titles at launch. But we do value PC gamers and will continue to look at the right times to launch each game. Bench Studio just released the PC version of Days Gone, so that's about 2 years after the PS4 release, ellipsis. We want to reach new gamers who haven't yet experienced the great stories, characters, and worlds that we've built. Releasing games on PC will not come ever at the expense of building an exciting lineup of great console games, end quote. In terms of PC releases, PlayStation support has been historically scant. Second-party titles like Flow, Flower, and Journey from That Game Company and Helldivers from Arrowhead had well-received PC releases, of course, Quantic Dreams games as well. And Sony did mess with limited first-party PC support with the likes of Guns Up, but it wasn't until 505 Games released Kojima Productions' Death Stranding on PC in 2020 that notable titles started showing up. Sony itself published Horizon on PC later that year, and Days Gone is noted was a more recent release. What do you think, Dustin? You said that this is positive. I agree, although I think there's a lot here to unpack because I think he is telegraphing very much here if you want to read and parse his words. But what are your thoughts on the 30,000 feet up?
I think, this is great. We talked about milking the orange. You got to milk it.
That orange.
You got to milk the orange. And it feels somewhat validating. As much as we've been criticizing our friend Herman here, this show, that I'm like totally on board with this. It's like you bring a game to a new audience. It's great. They get a new revenue stream from that game, and it brings more awareness to particular IPs. And what's exciting for me, there's a bit of me that really does care about game preservation. And as much as I think PlayStation is going to be around for a very, very long time, there's potentially a reality where PlayStation's not around, or Xbox, or whatever. PC feels like the only place where something is truly immortal in a way. So I think it's cool that we can have these games on here, and they can be modded, or they can be improved with new hardware when it comes out. Like there's kind of like, it opens up a new playground for these games, and I'm glad to see them invest further, of course, because of my beloved Bloodborne. We hope and pray every day, actually, for a Bloodborne PC port or an update, whatever. So I'm glad. I'm very glad they're going to keep doing this.
Well, I will say that, sorry if that burp came through, by the way. That snuck up on me a little bit. I will say, let's connect some dots here. I mean, it's exciting. Sure. I've long said that they're going to revisit Bloodborne. I think it's clear that they'll get From Software to make another game. Demon's Souls might be a telegraph of that as well. Maybe it won't be Bloodborne. Demon's Souls, Bloodborne, maybe it's just a totally different game. But I think they're going to do something. And my theory is that when they announce that game, they will announce and release the patch because that would be a really nice thing to do. And I feel like that would be a great product for them to invest in. Although maybe a little weird because they already have Demon's Souls. So maybe not necessary. But that is not a From game, to be fair, the remake. Just based on a From game. So I want to kind of dive in here a little bit, Dustin, into some of what he's saying, because I agree with you. We were talking earlier about passive income streams, and this is the most ripe passive income stream possible for them. Other than releasing their games on Xbox, I think that this is the most money that they're leaving on the table. And of course, they're not going to release their games on Xbox, so this is the next best thing that you're going to get. This also sacrifices nothing because the modular nature of PC has expectations built in with that player set that games kind of fluctuate. And also there's this kind of expectation that, that I think not an expectation, but an acceptance kind of boiling within the bloodstreams of all of our PlayStation fandom that this is going to happen. This is happening. And he says a few things here that are interesting that I think are going to really bother people when they come to the head. First of all, there's going to be a day when there is a big exclusive that comes to PC at the same time. He basically says it. If you read what he says it actually multiple times. we emphasize that PlayStation will remain the best place to play our PlayStation Studios titles at launch. So not the only place to play them, the best place to play them at launch. That's what he says. So I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that jargon per se. I'm just saying he's telling you Factions, I think, is going to come to PC. By the way, I'm going to throw that out there at the same time.
Whoa.
PS4, PS5, PC. Factions.
Okay.
Day and date. So he kind of lets you know that. But he says releasing games later on PC will not come ever at the expense of building an exciting lineup of great console games. I totally agree. I totally believe him. As long as you don't look at others having something, it's what we were kind of talking about earlier. Is it a big deal, PS5 players? Should we care about PS4 players in some regard? And the answer, I think, is no, not really. But if you do, and you care about the financial health of the company in some way that will net you more games and give them more of a black or in the black financial record that will allow them to invest more, then this is all upside to you. You just have to let go of the idea, if you're one of those people, that PlayStation exclusives don't mean what they used to mean anymore. There's no such thing. And I think it's kind of similar. We used to say Xbox. Remember, we used to say Xbox console exclusive. And at a time, it was like, well, because it was coming to PC. And eventually people just started saying Xbox exclusive again because it was implied that it would come to PC. I think we're going to get to that point. And I also think he gave us a little bit of a hint with Days Gone. He says that was 2 years between releases. So it seems like maybe that's what they're aiming at. I still think God of War is the next one. That would be much more than 2 years. That would be more than 3 years at this point. But let me just ask you this. What games will come to PC from first or second party this year? Days Gone's out. Well received. Horizon, by the way, 250% ROI on that port. Big money. Passive income. I feel like God of War is the one.
Yeah. I think God of War, we already know potentially about Uncharted 4.
Yep, Uncharted 4. That's true too. You're absolutely right. That leaked.
Man, I'm looking at a list right now. I think another one that makes a lot of sense is whenever they inevitably announce a PS5 version of Dreams, that it also is coming to PC. I don't know. They're holding on to Dreams. They keep acting like they're excited about it. And so maybe that's kind of the Dreams 2.0 is a PC, PS5 launch. And, they've talked about that being their Roblox. So who knows? Maybe Dreams will come to phones also, if that's kind of what they're trying to angle that.
Yeah. I'll be interested to see what happens with Dreams. I think that the absence of that game is conspicuous. I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
But I was noting, Media Molecule is basically a permanent studio now. Now that Siobhan Reddy is a BAFTA fellow, that's the end. So I really feel like now they have carte blanche. She has peers like Miyamoto and Kojima. So they're not going to close her team. So that might give them a little breathing room. My hope with Media Molecule is that they eventually announce that they're making a game. So we can, get a Media Molecule game for the first time since Tearaway. Been a while. We did get this question, though, to this from Andrew Lightbody, who says, "Hey, fellas, in the recent Q&A, Herman Hulst made it clear that single-player games will continue to be the bread and butter of PlayStation. But he also mentioned the importance of providing a variety of experiences, including multiplayer. He said, quote, who says that multiplayer experiences cannot have great stories, right? End quote. In my mind, SOCOM or Resistance are the PvP-centric IP that could fit that mold. Why are they so hesitant to revisit one of these IP and bring a AAA PvP exclusive to the platform? Right now, Factions is my only hope for a PlayStation PvP experience." SOCOM, I think, is obvious. I don't know how they don't bring SOCOM back. I'm confident in this. I have been for a while. I just feel like this is one of those things where they realize that this IP, many more than their other dormant ones, didn't get a fair shake. It didn't die necessarily because of anything other than the PSN outage. They don't have data to know if people give a shit about SOCOM. I think it's a really smart idea to go back and do some multiplayer stuff with it, especially from the first party. I think Guerrilla might be the team that makes it. But what do you have to say, Dustin?
It's easy to connect the dots on this one. You have rumors about SOCOM, Guerrilla, whatever. Okay, so that's the first dot. And then we have Sony releasing games on PC. We have the third, which is Sony being more interested in esports, and to the point where they bought Evo. And then, I mean, part of this, it's kind of a constellation, whatever. It's all over the place. But there's also the element of them hiring the designer of Rainbow Six Siege, which is a huge esport. So
yeah, that was a big high. I mean, that was the thing. That was equivalent to when they hired John Gonzalez as the writer of their Mysterious Game, and it was like, oh, so you're writing a open world role playing game. It's very similar, that kind of telegraphed hire.
Whatever this is, that's the day and date PS4, PS5, PC, whatever that competitive game, esport game. That's, to me, like, there's no way you try to do an actual esport level FPS game and you don't release it on PC. If you don't release it on PC at the same time, it's DOA.
I actually agree with you. I don't know that. See, this is where we have to come back to this theme that we talked about earlier about are people going to be able to let go, the most hardcore fans be able to let go of what a PlayStation exclusive means and look at it, as we've said, more of an ecosystem built around hardware, but not necessarily tethered only to it. It's just the necessary way it's got to be. PC launches don't bother me. They really don't. I'm not bothered by it at all, especially because it doesn't hold PS5 back. Gaming PCs are way more powerful than PS5. If anything, the PS5 is holding the PC version of the game back. So that it matters less to me. Good question, though, Mr. Lightbody. Thank you for writing in.